All right, so we are on the clock. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another week at COD for digital illustration. I hope everyone's doing well. Does anybody have any questions about anything before we get started tonight? Anybody have any concerns or need to see
The
anything? Go ahead.
the animation um needs to be done on After Effects, correct?
For the project,
Yes.
it can be After Effects or Photoshop.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it can be in any of the ways that we did for the exercises last week.
Say that one more time. I had to turn my speaker up.
Like it can be either on Photoshop with like different layers of like the drawing and like over like putting one on top of the other, I guess. Or it can be on After Effects, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
And
Go
And
ahead.
I can create the illustrations on any program, or it has to be like um, Illustrator.
No. I would prefer not Illustrator. Some people will use, if you're going to use Illustrator for your assets, then you'll be using After Effects. Otherwise, your assets will come from either Photoshop or Procreate.
Okay,
Yeah.
sounds good.
Yep. Now, I think I said last class, and if I didn't, I want to say right now, I've never animated from Procreate into After Effects. I'm sure it's possible because I know that you can kick out a PSD from Procreate, but I also know that Procreate does kind of some little weird things like clipping masks. Technically, they mean the same thing in Procreate that they do in Photoshop, but I don't know how After Effects would interpret something like that, nor do I know how it would handle like layer masks or groups. So there could be a lot of question marks in regards to how to set up a file that I'm not prepared to answer right now. Um, if that turns out to be a problem, let me know and I'll set something up that's similar to what you've got and I'll try to figure out a workaround if it's not cooperating. Now,
Sounds good.
Photoshop.
I think the one thing to avoid any future problems with that, it would be like just after you're done, merge your layers and have like one layer for each movement basically, instead of like this group and then this. Like I could duplicate it to keep the original one and then just on one, just merge everything that's going to be on one layer and then on the second layer.
Right. Yeah, I think I see where you're going with that. And you're probably right. So long as you keep in mind that, let's say that you've got a face and you want the eyes to move. The face is going to have to be its own layer, then the eye or eyes are going to have to be their own layers because those will move independently. So don't merge the face and the eyes together.
Right, right. Yeah.
Um, that's fine, Alan. Yeah, we can take a look at it. Okay. Well, yeah, that's a good point. Anybody else have any other questions or anything that you guys want to see tonight?
I had one just quick little clarification question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Uh, with my I'm gonna be doing a juggling, and you mentioned to use rotoscoping, I'm pretty sure was what the
Yeah.
technique was called.
Yep.
And the best way to go about that would be doing the individual frames and then putting it into Photoshop and then making the animation that way, or would you recommend going through Adobe After Effects and having which route would you recommend going in that?
Good question. We're going to do rotoscoping. That's the first thing that we're going to do tonight. So, um, I'm going to be using Photoshop to rotoscope. You could use After Effects to rotoscope. The reason I would say don't use After Effects is because the painting tools, drawing tools in After Effects are not very good. So something like that, I think would be much better handled in Photoshop. Though you could use either. Um, I'm trying to think if I've got, well, we've got, let's see. Let me think for a second. If I had an image sequence, which I don't think I have any longer, if we had an image sequence of, say it was like 30 frames of someone juggling, we could bring that into After Effects and do a, oh boy, I forget the name of the term now. Image sequence. So you could grab all 30 layers, choose image sequence, and it would basically offset them by whatever you specify. And then you'd play it and it would look like juggling, but you would have to have all those frames done ahead of time, which again is it's doable. I've done it before. I just think for rotoscoping, Photoshop has some tools in it that work really well. You'll see.
Sounds good.
Yeah. In fact, why don't we do this? Let me share my screen real quick. Let me show you the demo files that we're going to be using tonight, and then we'll just get started. And then if anything comes up, just let me know. Okay, so we are looking at, we've gone through a lot so far. Tonight we are doing squash and stretch. So you guys will want this PSD. Over animate, you'll want this Illustrator file. And this file right here, sorry, it's not named very well at all. 3044160 UHD, blah, blah, blah. It's a video. It's a girl dancing. This is what we're going to start with. So go ahead and download this, and I'll show you how to prep a file for rotoscoping. Now, the key to this for anybody that's going to choose to do rotoscoping is you're going to need to find a piece of video. That stuff is out there. There's tons of videos. So for instance, let's see. I'll go to Envato. Actually, I'll use my other browser. I think Unsplash has video. Otherwise, you can pull any video. You can pull off of YouTube. You're going to draw over it, so it doesn't really even matter the quality. Let's see if I'm logged in here. Yeah. But, okay. No big deal. Stock video. Let's look for. Go to all stock and put in juggling. Perfect. All right. So I guess it really just depends on like what kind of juggling you want to see. Is it from the front? Is it from the side? Is it from the top view? Someone else is talking about soccer. Let's take a look at this guy. So, rotoscoping something like this wouldn't be a pretty cool idea. Nice thing about this is it loops. As soon as you see the foot twist over, then you can kind of just like repeat it. Not that all of these things have to loop, but if you have something that loops, it can play forever and it looks right. So, find a piece of video, YouTube, Vimeo, Envato, the list goes on and on. Just download it. Even if you got a watermark in it, it doesn't matter. You'll just draw over it, so it's not going to hurt anything. All right, so I've got a piece of video here. I'll let it play real quick. So it's just a girl dancing. It's kind of in slow motion. All right, so you get the drift. So if you are going to choose to rotoscope, Photoshop makes a ton of sense. I've already got mine set up, but I'll go back through it and set it up with you guys. So here's the video. This is the drawing on top, and I'll just let it play. Now, before I play it, know this. Animation, particularly rotoscoping, is very time intensive. It takes a lot of time because remember, we've talked about FPS, your frames per second. If you have 30 frames per second, that means for every 1 second of footage, it's really 30 drawings. That's a lot. It's going to look great. It's going to look totally smooth, but you better plan on, if you've got a 12-second clip, 12 times 30, I mean, what is that, 400 and something? It's 400 and plus drawings, maybe 500, I don't know. So that's a lot of drawings. Now, it can be done. The thing about animation, more than maybe any other discipline, is you have to give yourself milestones. So back when I was animating heavily, I had a weekly calendar that said I need to be up to frame whatever by this night. And I would work until whenever, get to that frame, and then I could call it. If I still had some gas in the tank, I would chip away and try to get a little bit into the next night. You have to give yourself milestones because if you just wait until the end, I guarantee you will not finish. You're going to run out of time and you get sloppy and you start missing stuff. It's not the way to go. So if you have 500 drawings, we've got 2 weeks. Break it down. How many drawings every day do you need to get to? Maybe you've got more time on the weekends. Maybe you got more time on Thursday nights. Factor that in and say, I got to get 60 drawings done every day. Sounds like a lot. Something like this, it takes me about maybe a minute, maybe a minute and a half to do a drawing. So I can kind of bang these things out. I started this at about 6 o'clock. I worked until, I don't know, 6:10, and I got about 5 frames done. So here's what it looks like. We'll just play it, but keep in mind, it's going to go super quick. So here we go. See, it's already over. So I'll turn the bottom layer off. We'll go back to the beginning here, and this is just my drawing. So I should be able to zoom into my workspace a little bit. Let's see if I can loop this. Here we go. All right, so here we go. It should loop now. So really not a whole lot, right? But you kind of see where it's going. And it does have that quality that it looks kind of realistic, even in its simplicity. It's got a very human motion to it. And that's courtesy of the rotoscoping because it is based off of live action. All right, so how did this thing go down? Something else, if you had time, and I would do this, it looks cool as a clean holding line, just the black outline kind of moving around. But ultimately, what I would probably do is I would create a new video track and then I would paint underneath it. I would create some pretty wild colors. That way it kind of flows with it. It could be a lot of fun. But first things first, let's set this thing up. So what we need to do is we need to create a new composition. So we'll go to File, New. And this is kind of important. It would help to know the dimensions of the video itself. I don't know off the top of my head. I guessed. I plugged in 720 by 480, which is a very old interlace preset. And the only reason I chose that is because it's small. That's it. I could go bigger. I could go to film and video, and I could choose something more in line with what we have been doing. So here's 1920 by 1080, 1280 by 720, and the list goes on and on and on. I don't know the size of the video. I could go to its properties and I could find out, but for right now, I'm just going to plug in, I'll do 1920 by 1080. It'll be fine. Here's what's important. You want to make sure it's RGB, and you want to make sure that the resolution is 72. Now, if you stay in a film and video preset, it's going to lock those two things in automatically. Don't do this any larger. You can, but it's just going to slow things down. It won't make it look any better. And it's just really going to hog up bandwidth. So make sure that you stay at 720. You would never want CMYK in a video. Those two things just don't make any sense. So CMYK is always for print. RGB is always for motion. Okay, this looks fine. I'll go ahead and choose create. Now, I've already got my timeline out. You might not. So let me close this out and make mine look a little bit more like yours. You do need a video timeline for this. Last class, when we did the MyBridge, the horse galloping, that we were using frame timelines. And you can use frame timelines. If you want to just do a straight ahead animation where you know draw a little bit, make a new frame, draw a little bit more, make a new frame, draw a little bit more, that's cool. But stick to your storyboard. Don't go off script. That if you don't have an end point in mind, we call that straight ahead animation, where it's more experimental. It's like whatever you wind up with is where you wind up. Those can be fun, but we're looking for like a clear beginning, middle, and end. Even if it's something simple, just something, you know, rotating, that's fine. But the end is the rotation, as opposed to this organic thing that just, you know, nebulously moves and swirls and blobs and changes colors, and then like it's over. It might look really cool, but if I don't know where the end is, I don't know how to grade that, because it's like, did you do enough? Didn't you do enough? Did you do too much? I don't know. So we are going to be using a video timeline. So to do that, window timeline. Remember, you got two choices here. Drop this down. You've got the frame, which is what we did last week, and we got the video, which is what we want. So we're going to choose create video timeline. And then we have to click it one more time. We told it what to be. Now we've got to tell it to be that. So create video timeline. And here we go. So we've got layer 0, and all that corresponds to is the empty layer in the layers palette. We won't be using that at all. So you could technically delete that. You just can't do it right now, because in Photoshop, you always have to have one layer. So we can't trash that out just yet, but eventually if we want to, we can. So now we're going to go to File, Place Embedded, and we're going to place our video clip. I wonder if I go to properties here, if I can find out what the size is. Yeah, I can find out in Bridge if I really cared. Details. Oh, this thing's big. 3840 by 2160. It must be some high res video. It's pretty large. All right, so I'll cancel this. Real quick, before we bring this in though, and cancel this out. So right now, this thing is probably going to play at 30 frames a second, 24 frames a second. That's a lot. So the one that I did over here, I cut this thing down to, I believe it's 10 frames a second. So we're going to set that up real quick. So here in the video timeline, the little sandwich icon in the upper right, if you click on this, you can choose set timeline frame rate. Choose this. It's got 2997. That's an old FPS. That's one that is interlaced. If you guys ever really want to know what that's about, let me know, but I'll leave that more for a video class if you ever take one. All I'm going to do is I'm going to chop this down by a third. I'm going to choose 10. That way I only have to draw 10 frames a second as opposed to 30 frames a second. So I'm going to plug in 10 and choose OK. Okay, so that is going to tighten things up. It's going to save a lot of work for me. Is it going to be a little bit more choppy? Yes. Will it still work? Yes. So if I'm going for that Disney fluidity, 24 frames a second. I think Rachel posted that link of like, what does 24 frames look like versus 60 frames? Big difference. One's like incredibly smooth and very fluid. But 60 frames a second, that's a lot of drawing. You know, if all of us were working together and I'm going to take the first 10, Rachel's going to take the next, Isabel's going to take the next, Zach's the next. Sure, we might be able to do something pretty cool, but we're not working in a group. So be smart about this. So I'm at 10 frames a second right now. All right, so now File, Place Embedded, grab that clip, place. All right, so here it is. And it actually fits the aspect ratio pretty well. This one I had to scale down quite a bit. It was smushed. She was like really it's like a funhouse mirror. She was like really squat, so I had to kind of like peel it out a little bit. This one seems like it fits much. Did it not get in? Oh, I had to hit enter. So let me do that again. File, place embedded, get girl, hit enter. All right. I should be able to play this right now. So if I just hit play on the playhead, there she is. Now this is not running in real time right now. This is slowed down. And I can tell that because when it was playing in the lower left-hand corner, the the frame rate was red and it had a little red exclamation point. You'll see that in After Effects too. All that's letting you know is it's not real time. It's like an approximation. And the reason for that is the processor can't keep up with the video. So after it plays through once, it should play a little bit smoother. There we go. And then as soon as it hits that frame that it stalled out on, there it goes. So it's slow again. So there's that little warning right there. That little green line that you see at the top, that's a buffer. You'll see the same thing in After Effects. Once it's buffered and you see a full green line, then it should be playing a little bit more true to real time. But if it kind of like stalls and lags, know that it's trying to catch up with all the frames that it has to interpret. All right, so the video's in. It's fairly well prepped. Now we just want to start drawing on top of it. You don't want to draw on this layer. In fact, I don't even think you could if you wanted to. Yeah, it's not going to let you. This is a piece of video, and the video you can see in the right hand, or I'm sorry, the right hand bottom corner. It's a smart object. Smart objects, there's not much you can do to them up to and including drawing on them. So what we need to do is we need to make a new layer, but it has to be a special layer. It's not just a layer. So to do this, we're going to go to layer, video layer, and we're going to make a new blank video layer. This is kind of weird, and this is the only time I'll ever use this, because the new blank video layer, what this is it's a layer that's empty. You can do anything you want to it, draw on it, paint on it, whatever, but it stays in your video timeline. That might not mean much, but as soon as we create it, you'll probably get an idea of where this is going. So we're going to do a new blank video layer. Boom, there it is. Sits right on top. And it's an empty layer right here. It's got a new icon. It's not a smart object. It's like a little video clip, like a little film strip. That's what that's letting you know. It's a video layer. So the way that I would go about this, oops, let's move this over here, is in order to kind of see what I'm doing a little bit better, I'm going to take this layer, I'm going to dip the opacity down some. That way I can kind of see through it a bit. I'm going to make sure that I am on my video layer. Get my brush, B for brush. I've got a kind of a small pencil brush loaded in here, and then I'm just going to draw. I'm just going to kind of draw the silhouette here. Now I'm moving pretty fast. It's not accurate. Depending on what you're doing, maybe you want accurate, maybe not. I don't know. But generally speaking, when I'm rotoscoping, uh, I'll take kind of quantity over quality, because I know that each drawing, it's only going to be on screen for, eighth of a second, if that. So I just kind of get like a gestural outline. Really don't spend a lot of time with like facial uh, expressions or anything. It's more just suggestive. Now, if you've got a short clip, feel free to like put a little bit more detail in. I just want to get the general outline here, and then I'll move on to the next frame. And that's what the little forward advance button is. Here's the next frame. Draw, draw, draw. Now I'm going to jump back to my other clip since I'm a little bit further along on that one. Turn her back on. All right. So let's see where I left off. Go to the next clip, next clip. All right, so this is where I'm at. Make sure I'm on that layer. I had said that rotoscoping is tedious, and I'm not lying, it really is, but it is satisfying. If you can kind of zone out, find your zen, put on a podcast or just listen to some music or something, set a timer for 30 minutes, draw for 30 minutes, get up, do anything else. Go for a walk, cook some food, play with your pets, make some phone calls or whatever you need to do, then come back and log in another 30 minutes. Do that for a couple sessions. I think you'll be pretty pleased with the outcome because what's cool about it is it's kind of brainless. You know what I mean? You're just almost like a coloring book. You're just kind of like following around the lines, like a paint by numbers almost. And once you got that all done, you'd be surprised that, after a couple sessions, give it a play and see how far you are. All right, I'll do one more frame and then we'll let it play one more time. And I might even drop some color in there too. Why not? We've got some nice watercolor brushes that were given to us, those Grut brushes. I don't know if you guys downloaded those yet or not. Coloring, if you're sloppy like I'm going to be, can go real fast because you're not even hardly staying in the lines anymore. We did those continuous contours a couple weeks ago. Those things come in really handy when it comes to like speed painting around here because you're just looking at the outside shapes. I mean, you could really treat this as a continuous contour where you never even pick up the um, stylus. Okay, let's jump back a little bit. I'm going to add a little bit of color in there. So I'm going to go to layer, video layer. I'm going to add a blank video layer. This one I'll move underneath. Okay. Might even want to start naming these things. Call layer 1 line weight. And layer 2 will be color. All right. And maybe I'll just start with her pants. So B for brush, F5. No, it's doing this weird thing again. Here's my Grut brushes. Throw some gouache in there. Okay. And let's get some orange. Go to my next frame. Next frame. Kind of wish I had more of like a watercolor brush, but whatever, it's fine. Next frame. Last frame, call it there. Okay, jump back to the beginning. Actually, let me go to the very end and see how far I got. Let's get right about there. Set my work area bar to right here. And then I can turn off that video layer. I'll go to my settings right here, the little gear icon. Open that. I'm going to loop playback. Resolution set to 50. That's fine. All right, let's see what it looks like. Let's play it. There we go. That's probably about 10 frames. It looks good. It's a lot of fun. There's some nice movement, but it's real short. So that is the pro and that is the con of rotoscoping. Now, if I was going to do this for real, the background would be static. I would just draw one frame. That wouldn't move. I would probably try to keep it in the same style as the foreground so it doesn't look conflicting. And then I would just have her dancing on top of a background. I could have objects in the foreground as well, but those probably wouldn't move either. How did that work? Were you guys able to follow that, or should I go through that again? I can post a link. It's really what I did just came right from here. Get our chat pod out. And there are tons of tutorials online on how to do this, folks. Yeah, cool on that. It's fun. It's a lot of fun, especially if you've got something that's kind of personal. Like maybe you've got a little video of, you and a loved one, or an animal, or doing something kind of fun or funny, and you want to recreate it as an animation. Rotoscoping is a really cool technique because it ends up looking like that person somewhat. Especially if people are in on the joke, like maybe you pulled a prank or something like that. You do a pretty good job of rotoscoping it. It's kind of immortalized in a way that normal video doesn't do it quite as cool. Okay, well, if we are cool on rotoscoping, that will probably be the last time that we see it, unless for some reason somebody else needs more support on that. But that's it. That's rotoscoping. Okay, I know that I made a list of topics that people wanted to get to. That was kind of in several people's animations. So we took care of rotoscoping. So I think Zach said that he might try to do that. So that should kind of cross that off the list.
Yeah, thank you
Uh,
for that.
yeah, no, you're very welcome. Listen, dude, it was coming up anyways. So I'm glad that, it was a good way of saying like this was going to happen, but now we really have a good reason to do it. So that worked out real well. There was a ball bounce. So we're going to do a squash and stretch today. And we also have a flower grow, which is going to be our over animate. Those are the other two demos that I wanted to do tonight. Outside of that, I don't really have much planned. So we'll probably have some free time at the end of the meet to answer any specifics. And then when 8:45 hits, we can all bounce out of here. Let's do a squash and stretch. I was going to make this guy's gradable exercise. I don't think I'm going to do that. I'd rather you guys really just focus on your work instead of doing these 10-point exercises for After Effects. I don't know. Hopefully it doesn't come back to bite me. So follow along if you want, watch if you want. I guess if you want to tune out, I wouldn't know the difference. But we are going to do a squash and stretch, and that's the file that we're going to be using. It's called squash and stretch, and we're going to be using After Effects for this. So let's start there. Let me launch After Effects for starters, and then I'll share my screen. I'll share my After Effects screen. I want to start from the ground up to reinforce how to bring things in. This one's going to be kind of important. We definitely want to bring this in a certain way. All right. Share my screen. Okay, so we should be seeing After Effects. Just like before, it's really important that we have a directory, which is also referred to as hierarchy. Let's say that this is our project. We're really making whatever, it's going to have a squash and stretch in it. Cool. You would want a folder. I would call the folder squash and stretch. Inside of that folder, you would have all of the assets, such as the PSD that we're going to be using. And you would want to save your After Effects file in that folder. That way, if something happens, everything is in that one spot. That way you can move that folder to a different computer. You can move it to a Google Drive. You can move it to a jump drive. And when you take that jump drive or download it from a Google Drive onto a different system, it can find everything. Otherwise, you're going to wind up with a bunch of broken links. And if you don't have those links and you can't reroute them, you're burned. There's nothing you can do about it. So I'm not going to do that. I know it's like do as I say, not as I do type thing, but this will be the only time I'm really going to use it. So I'm just going to go to new project. Now remember, with a new project, really not much happens. You know, we don't have any books in the library. We don't have a stage. We don't have a timeline. We need to give it a composition. So we will choose new composition. I'm curious though, what size this thing is. So let me close this out. I think I might save this. I might keep working on this. I'm going to say file, save as. This has the same problem, and this is why my Cinegraph didn't work last time. My video is not going to be in the same spot, so do I save it or don't I save it? Yeah, I'll just leave it open for right now. This is on my computer. You don't have to do this. I'm just curious to know what size my squash and stretch is. Image size. 1920 by 1080. So if I want it to be the same size, which I do, I should make my composition 1920 by 1080. Okay, that works. File, save as. I'll just save this to the desktop. Call it Roto Router. Okay, so After Effects, new composition, 1920 by 1280. Is that right?
I think you said 1080.
1080, 1920 by 1080. There we go. Yep. 1920 by 1080. What is the FPS that we want to choose? We've got 24, 25, or 2997. Stay away from anything that's got decimals in it. You don't want that. 25 isn't bad. It's one extra frame, obviously, but I think it's easier to work on even numbers just because you can divide them so much easier. Like, what's half of 24? 12. What's half of 12? 6. You get into the 25s and the math gets weird. So 1920, 1080, 24 FPS looks good. How long does this thing want to be? Right now it's 5 seconds. It should be okay. If I need to add more, I'll show you guys how to do that today. All right, looks pretty good. Go ahead and choose OK. So now we have one book in our library. It's called Comp 1, nothing in the comp. We have a stage and we have a timeline. Let's go ahead and bring in the only asset that we're going to be using. File, import, file. Here it is, squash and stretch. How do we want to bring it in? 3 flavors to choose from. Footage. I had said this before, footage will take all of your layers and smash them together. So if you want the ball to bounce, you don't want that because you want the ball separate from the background. Why would you ever want footage? Sometimes you just have a still, sometimes it's a JPEG. Sometimes it's just a background. Footage is great for that. You don't need anything else because there is nothing else. Or if you've done something that's got a bunch of layers, but none of the layers are going to move or animate, yeah, footage is great, totally. In this case, though, it leaves comp, retain layer size, or comp. What is the difference here? Well, if we choose composition, that ball is only, let's say it's 100 pixels by 100 pixels. I really only want to animate those 100 pixels. So if I squash it, it's taking those 100 and bouncing it down. The difference is if I just choose composition, those 100 pixels will see the entire document. So that ball now becomes 1920 by 1080. For a squash, it might not be that big of a deal, but for a rotate or an anchor point, it can be really, in fact, even position could be real hairy because you don't really know where the anchor point is. So needless to say, composition, retain layer size is usually the one that you want. Occasionally composition is the one, but not very often. So composition retain layer size is what we're looking for. I will choose import. I'll get hit with one more. Hey, are you sure this is what you want? Because you can import and it gives you one more option like, are you sure? That is what I want. Editable layer style is fine. What this is saying is if you had drop shadows, outer glows, strokes, any effects that you would have in Photoshop, you can keep those editable. So then you could animate the drop shadow. You could animate the bevel and emboss. Like all of those effects would be animatable. They'll all have little stopwatches on them. Or you could take them all and smash them into a merged style. I don't have any style, so it doesn't matter. So I'll just choose OK. All right. So now we've got a few books in our library, nothing on the stage, nothing in the timeline. Inside of our squash and stretch folder, we've got the two assets. We've got the ball. You can see the ball. Now the bounding box just really goes around the ball. So the ball is 266 by 266, and the court is 1920 by 1080. So the court goes the entire stage, hence the dimensions of that. And the ball is much smaller, so the dimensions of that. That's what retain layer size did. Something that's going to happen is, you don't have to do this. I'm going to try to trick it. So we're going to be using the squash and stretch composition. So I'm going to double click this composition. All right, so this is basically how the Photoshop file set up. Right, here it is. I've got a layer named ball and a layer named court. I don't need this anymore. If I look at my After Effects file, it's identical. I've got a layer named ball, a layer named court. It's all good. Some of you are going to do this. It's going to happen. It's going to happen to everybody. It always happens. It's usually a mistake. In fact, it almost always is a mistake. It is really frustrating because you're like, oh crap, what happened? And you don't know how to get back to it. It's almost like when you accidentally go into isolation mode in Illustrator. Like maybe you have a group and you accidentally double click on the group and a lot of stuff goes out and you're like, what happened? I don't really know what's going on. In Illustrator, it's pretty easy. If you just double click around enough, you'll get out of isolation. After Effects is not so forgiving. So this can end up happening very easily. Sometimes that would actually be on top of the ball. I'm going to try to trick it again. Yeah, this will happen. You're like, whoa, what's going on here? But where's my stuff? Like what happened here? What you did is you accidentally double clicked on a layer. So you're just looking at that one layer. It's not a big deal. Nothing's deleted. It's just you need to tab over. So up here along the top here, just close out of that thing. And there's your composition. So again, I'll try that one more time. So I'm going to double click on the chord. It's like, well, where's my ball? You're just looking at the court right now. So if you take a look up here, it says layer court. You're just isolating that one layer. I'll be honest with you, I haven't really found a reason why you would want to do that. I think if memory serves, this is the way that you would rotoscope in After Effects. You would just be working with the layer, but it's been so long since I rotoscoped in After Effects, I can't really remember if that's true or not. There's this effect called write-on where you can click, hold, and drag and like draw. Let's say you wanted to like write cursive of your name. So if I wrote William, it would write that on kind of in real time. I remember that you do that on the layer, and you can also use the write-on effect to reveal a mask. So same thing, you could have a brush script of your name, and then you could literally click, hold, and drag and pen a mask over it, and then reveal it. Kind of a cool effect. There's easier ways to do it now. That was like a thing 15 years ago, but I think you had to isolate the layer to do that. Needless to say, it's annoying. So just close it out. And if you accidentally close out your composition, like, oh my God, I don't have anything, you should just be able to double click on the composition and it brings it right back up. So if you think you've lost everything, I assure you, you didn't. All right, let's go ahead and set up a squash and stretch. All right, I don't want to accidentally do anything to the court. It's going to be real easy for me to accidentally move it or squish it or do something weird to it. So in the court layer here, I'm just going to lock it down. There's a little lock icon, just lock it down, forget about it. Just want to work with the ball now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have the ball come off of stage left. I'm going to have it bounce here, bounce off the wall, bounce here, and then roll and kind of come to a rest. So we'll see how that works out. So start here. I'm going to move the ball over to the right-hand side. I've got the playhead set to 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. I'm ready to get started, and I'm going to start with a positional keyframe. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to get all my positional keyframes out of the way, and then I'm going to worry about the squash and stretch. And then if I've still got some time, I might try to add some rotation to it. So first things first, I'm going to twirl down the ball layer, twirl down transform, and I'm really just working with position at this point. So you guessed it, it's time to set a keyframe, drop a keyframe into position. So that's at the very beginning, 0, 0, 0, 0. And how fast should it come out? Well, I don't really know. I'll just pull the playhead out to like 1 second. Quick hold and drag and move this down here. All right, let's see what that looks like. Two hotkeys that are going to be pretty valuable here are B as in Bravo and N as in November. B and N will set your work area bar. So right now, if I do a RAM preview, it plays all the way through. I don't want to see the next 4 seconds because nothing happens. I just want to see the first second. So B will set the beginning of the work area bar, and it's based wherever the city marker is. So if I have the city marker set to 10 frames and I hit B, you'll see the playhead or the work area bar shifts to where the playhead is. So now it's going to start at 10 frames. And if I pull the playhead to 1 second, 2 frames and hit N, it trims the end of the work area bar. So I'll pull the work area bar to the very beginning, set it to the end of the keyframe, and I'll just hit 0 to do a RAM preview. All right. It works. It's real stale. Like balls don't usually fall at a diagonal. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have it kind of pop up somewhere like right around in here. I'll set a new keyframe, and instead of going down at a diagonal, I'm going to move it up in the air. Move this anchor point right here. See what that looks like. Better, but it's still pretty mechanical right now. It's like there's no, you know, it's not like not very graceful. Let's put it like that. So let's go to here. Now I can smooth all that stuff out. I should have. I got to turn snap off. So usually snap's a good thing for your timeline in your on your stage. It's not so great. Actually, I'm going to leave it as is right now. We'll smooth it out later. I don't want to get into Bezier handles just yet. So let's just go ahead and do. Okay, so that's working. I think it's a little bit too slow, so I'll speed it up later. But we go from top to bottom, and then we want to bounce from the bottom back up to the top. Here it should start to fall again. Yeah, I got to turn snap off. It's driving me nuts. Okay. Still got a little bit of inertia, so it'll come back up. I'm going to have it hit this wall. I'm going to pretend that the side of the composition is the wall. From the wall, it should bounce up a little bit, not much. And come back down. Come back up a little bit. It's energy dissipates. You know, nothing has infinite energy. Well, maybe some weird astrophysics term does, but a basketball does not. It will run out of energy. So every subsequent bounce, it shouldn't get quite as high. It's just going to bounce, bounce, bounce. And then we'll have it boom, come up a little bit, down a little bit. And at some point, it'll completely run out of steam. I'll just have it kind of roll off to the side then. All right, let's see what the animation looks like. All right. Very, very crude, the motion is not believable whatsoever, but it's got the bones there. It's kind of in the right spot. Things, it's almost like bad wire work in movies. You know, like I remember, I think it was like the first Daredevil movie where the bad guy threw the good guy and he kind of like launched him. And at some point in midair, he went higher. Like that just defies any physics whatsoever. My ball is doing the same thing. Like it slows down in weird spots, like right there, like that drift right here between these two frames. That's not believable at all. So something's going on. I think it's right in here. Just shorten that up. See if that helped it a little bit. So these two, the problem is it's taking way too long. So I can just grab all these keyframes by rubber band selecting, pushing those a little bit closer together. See if that looks better. Better, but not great. But I do want to get on to more of the squash and the stretch aspect of it. So let's go ahead and start there. I'm looking for one tool though. All right, so here it comes right here on impact. Boom. When it impacts, this thing should compress some. It should squash down. And then when it releases, it should stretch out some. At some point, it will like reconstitute and turn back into a circle. But think about the way that, you know, a pressurized ball like this, if it hits, especially if there's a lot of cushion in it, it will squash down. And then as it rises back up, it'll squash out the other way somewhat. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set some scale keyframes, but I have to be a little bit aware of this. By default, scale is locked to one another. Let me show you what I mean. So I'm going to go ahead and start my scale right here. Click on scale keyframe. So it's at 100% by 100%, and right here, I want it to shrink down some. All right, makes sense. So if I grab my scale, push it down, it does that. I don't want my ball to be smaller. I just want it to be not as tall. I want it to be wider. So Control Z that. That's not the way to do it. What I need to do is unlink the height and the width. Come here and, oh, wrong way. Control Z that. There we go. So that's a much more flattened ball. But I did create a problem. And let's see if you guys can pick it up. Anybody see the problem?
It
The
shouldn't.
ball is like the lines are all in the same way. They're not rotating.
They're definitely not. That's true. That's not what I was going for. I can rotate it, and I probably will rotate it, but that's not the thing that's wrong. You're right. That looks
Why
weird.
why is it squishing before it hits the place where it's supposed to start squishing?
Okay, I will turn it back to you. That's what I was looking for. Why is it? And how do I fix it?
Oh, there should, because if there's a way to make a keyframe before, like closer to when it should be starting to squish, so that it doesn't squish until it like, you know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean.
I don't know
Yep.
how to explain it, but like
Hmm.
closer, make the keyframe closer.
That's it.
Yeah, okay.
Here's what's going on. I'll turn the background off so you guys can see this. It has a keyframe at 0000 saying it's 100%. At 1 second, it's 65% of its height. The problem is right here, it's 73% of its height. And right here, it's 81%. It starts at the very beginning and immediately starts to squish. That's not what you want to see. So I think it was Rachel or whoever said that. They're absolutely right. Just move your keyframes closer. It needs to be at 100% until contact. So really just like the frame before, I'm just going to take that first keyframe and move it right here. Maybe right here. So let's take a look at that in real time. So 100%, 100%, 100%, 100%, 100%. And now I'm going to use page down to just advance one frame at a time. 100%, 100%, 100%, 100%, 100%, swish. And now it needs to start to go back the other way. So I'll bring this back to 100. In fact, I might even go beyond 100. I might go to like 110 to make it a little bit more oblong. Push that over a few frames. And then bring it back down to 100. Now, let's see what that looks like. It might go a little fast. You guys see the bounce there? Here, I'll isolate just the bounce. Just that little bit of that adds so much believability to an animation. It doesn't have to be super exaggerated for it to work. But that is the type of physics that you're looking for when it comes to 2D objects. So 100%, 60%, going back up to 110. So now it's like a little bit more elongated. Now it should be rotated a little bit, like the ball shouldn't be this way. It should be going towards where it's going. So I'll have to animate some rotation aspects to it, but it's got a lot more believable physics. So zoom out here, and the same thing's going to happen here. Oh, right here. So now I'll go one frame up, drop a keyframe in here. So the question becomes, I know that if I click the stopwatch, because I want it 100%. But if I click the stopwatch, I'm going to lose all my keyframes. How do I just record a keyframe of its current value, be it scale, rotation, opacity, whatever? How do I do that? It's pretty simple. You've got a little add or remove keyframe icon on the left-hand side. If you just drop this in here, it'll record whatever value it's at right now. So this is what I want, 100%. That adds one, page down one time, and then I'll bring that down to, what would I say, like 60 something. It shouldn't be quite as squashed because it doesn't have as much energy coming into the second bounce. So I'll go to like 75 this time instead of 65. Page up, page down a couple times. Go up to 100. Okay, let's see what that sequence looks like now. It's getting there. Now my next squish would be the other way because it's going to bounce off the wall. So it would squish this way, and then it would kind of continue to squish and squash throughout. All right, let's talk a little bit about the geometry here. It looks real static. Like balls do not do this. Like nothing does that. That's robot. So there's arcs and there's curves and there's bends. And I'm not seeing any of that in my animation. So how do I fix that? First problem here is at the peak, this apex right here. This is the problem. This is what's referred to, and you guys have taken Illustrator class by now. You know how to use a pen tool. If you were wondering, like, oh God, I hate the pen tool. I'm never going to see the pen tool again. Well, you're wrong, because here's the pen tool. Pen tools are used for the exact same reason in Illustrator as they are After Effects. Not so much for drawing, but for motion paths. So if you need to smooth a path out, if you need to massage the corners of a path, you use the pen tool. So we're going to use in the Illustrator, it's called the anchor point tool, I believe. Here it's called the convert vertex tool, but it literally is the exact same thing. It turns a linear point to a Bezier point, and a Bezier point back to a linear point. So this is the point in question. It's got that really hard edge geometry to it, where I want more of a rounded arc. So I can grab this tool right here, the Convert Vertex tool, click on this, click, hold, and drag. And now I got a much more smooth motion. Now, when it hits the bottom's fine. The bottom can come in and bounce straight out. That makes sense. But this peak up here needs to be rounded off a little bit. Bouncing here should be fine. This one needs to be rounded off just a little bit. This one needs to be rounded off a bit. They get a little bit less and less as they go. I probably should have one more bounce, but let's take a look at that. Just those little adjustments are going to make a big difference. Give ourselves a little bit more work area bar here. Now there's definitely some hopping and jumping going on here. Like this one, it speeds up. It's going slow and then it speeds up into this point. So what I'll do is I'll just rubber band select everything, scooch it over some, give it a little bit more time to get there. Yeah, getting there. There's a weird motion arc right here. I think it might still be going a little bit too fast. So we'll grab those, scooch those over a bit more. I think it's really just kind of the placement of things. Some of them are a little bit too close to one another, so it's kind of like herky jerky. But just by smoothing out those arcs, it looks a lot better. Turn the background back on. See what we got. Now, the reason I don't think I'm going to put rotation on this is if I rotate it, well, I'll just do it and you'll see the problem. I'll plug in one rotation keyframe and I'll come here to the end and we'll just do one full revolution. See what that looks like. Hopefully this highlights the problem. It'll look good. It will spin, no doubt about it, but there's going to be an issue. Okay, so it's rotating backwards at the end. It should be rolling the other way. And surprisingly, that wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. Here's the thing about the rotation. So it's rotating, it's rotating, it's rotating. Take a look at that. It's rotating from the central anchor point. So now that it's 83 degrees, the squash is doing this way. It doesn't remember that it needed to be this way to squash. So it's still doable. What you would want to do is delete your, well, no, it's still doable. You would want to start with your rotation first, get your rotational keyframes, and then do your squash based off of the new position of where the rotation is. I'm probably making it sound more complicated than it is. Long story short, do the rotation first and then do your squash and stretch. But for me, I'm just going to take my rotation out. It looks kind of cool, but we'll just blow those things out. I think the squash itself looks better. It looks like it's still off. So it looks like I did not get rid of my rotation keyframes. There they go. There we go. Fixed one problem, kind of created a new problem. How did that go for everybody? Does that make sense? You guys understand what's going on there? Physics is a big part of After Effects. It's not something that you pick up just immediately, but the more that you mess around with it, the more you kind of can predict what's going to happen.
Yeah, that was helpful. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody want to see that again? Or now that we have this demo open, does this open a door for any other questions?
I had a question about because like I've used After Effects in like another class before,
Mhm.
but one thing we used in that class was like the camera or changing like the position of the camera. Can you give like a refresher how to do that? Because I think I'm gonna use that for like my animation.
So right now we don't technically have a camera. So you think that you're going to like set up a camera?
I think so. Or basically like how like the like if you wanted to zoom in into like the basketball or something like that, or like yeah, like kind of like how would that work?
Okay, so let's trick it. We could use a camera. We absolutely could. I don't want to throw too much at people that aren't going to use that side of it because guys, you can't. I mean, After Effects is a really, really big program, and yeah, you could go to layer, new. We could drop in a camera. We could drop in a light. We could do all types of stuff. I mean, they're like this is like a little cinematography studio. So yeah, we could absolutely put a camera in here. The reason I would suggest not using a camera and doing it. Okay, let me back up for a second. We could drop in a camera right now and we could just zoom right into it. It's going to create the same effect if it's going to create the same effect if we would have just scaled into the composition. The outcome is going to be the same. The difference would be, should we choose to I'll tell you what, let me do it my way first, and then I'll show you the difference would what it would look like if we did it with a camera. Let's do that. Okay. So we want to zoom into the basketball. Boom, boom, boom. Cool. How do we do it? We're going to do a pre-comp, and we don't even really have to do much of a pre-comp, really. So this composition is called squash and stretch. Everything that we've done has been inside of this composition called squash and stretch. Cool, great. Well, what if we wanted to bury this composition into another composition? Think of this as a smart object or a group in Illustrator. So we're going to nestle something in something else. Guys, this is where this program gets really powerful. So we've got one called Comp 1 here. So I'm going to double click Comp 1. There's nothing in Comp 1 right now. But what I could do is instead of pulling, say, the ball into this composition or the court into this composition, I could pull this comp into this composition. Now, inside of comp 1, and maybe I'll rename comp 1. To rename assets in After Effects, you don't double click them. In fact, that's where the trouble begins. Like if I wanted to rename court and I double click it, that's when this thing will happen where you like, it looks like you lose everything. So you have to close it out. If you want to rename something, select it and just hit enter. So I'm going to select comp 1 and hit enter, and I'll call this final. All right. So now I've got a composition named final. Great. So inside of final, I've got my squash and stretch. So if I hit 0, story. Blue stuff? Weird. After Effects must be like bugging out right now. It's like just lagging. I'll tell you what. Let's see here. Trying to think if there's a way to fix this on the fly, because otherwise I might have to restart After Effects. I think it might be out of RAM. Occasionally, this is a good idea. Go to Edit, Purge. And I just did it. I'll do all cache this time. I guess I just did. Yeah, there's nothing here. Yeah, I think this thing is toast for right now. So let's try. Okay, so that came back. Squash and stretch is here. That's a good start. Let's go to my final. All right, good deal. Whew. All right, so inside of my final, I got my squash and stretch. So that's basically the same composition I just did, right? The cool thing is I can animate, I can make adjustments to squash and stretch, and it will take place inside of final. Why this is important to what you were asking, Chris, is now that I've got this composition here, I can literally just zoom in to here. So let's say that as this comes down, I want to start to zoom into the ball. So let's twirl this down, twirl down, transform. I'm probably going to want a position and a scale keyframe. So I'm going to do scale and position. All right, so right here, everything's good. Actually, I'll move these back just a bit. So right here, this is where everything's at. And then right here, I'm going to zoom in some. So let's start with the scale. And then we'll do the position. Right, and then maybe we'll follow it around a little bit. Follow it over here. Got to be careful because I'm going to run out of background room, like it'll get chopped off. So I'll just follow it to right here, and I will continue to zoom into it. Should have a little bit more room. All right, let's see what that looks like. All right, give it a play. Now that was a pretty sharp zoom in. So let's back these keyframes out a little bit. So it's the illusion of a camera, but really it's just we're zooming into a composition. So that usually takes care of that type of effect. Because, and again, I'll show you how to use cameras right now. You got to be real careful with cameras. If you're not great with them, they end up causing more problems than they solve. But since you asked, let's do it. The reason that cameras can be better is we've got two-dimensional assets. So think of two note cards. You got the ball and you got the background. They are, if we were to like twirl this around, they're literally on top of one another paper thin. Like they take up no Z space whatsoever. They're both sitting on top of one another. But should we choose to move these into the third dimension, we can take the ball and move it away from the background. So visually, it's not going to look any different, but when we zoom in with the camera, this will get closer to the camera and the background might not. So you can create some pretty cool looks, and you can do some stuff with like depth of field. And then you can even take the camera and do things where it's not just not panning. What's the word I'm looking for? Like trucking left to right, but you can pan. But when you're playing with like 2D assets, it causes a lot of problems. All right, so we'll set that up. Let's go back to our original squash and stretch. All right, so right now, to prove that these things are just like razor thin, two-dimensional, let's put these into the third dimension. So this little icon right here. And guys, this is not going to pertain to probably maybe all of you, but we got some time. I'm going to go ahead and click this. So we enter 3D. We enter 3D. Oh, it's locked up. we enter 3D. Lock that back down. Let's take a look at this from a different view. So right now we've got active camera, but let's do custom view 1. All right, so what you're looking at is the camera looking at it, and we're like on the stage looking down at a 3/4 turn. And I don't know if you guys can see this or not, but the ball is literally sitting on the exact same plane as the background. Well, it doesn't have to be. Part of the problem is I've already set up positional keyframes. So if I do this right now, I might be able to trick it. Hang on, let's see if I can do this. Go to position. Yeah, I think I can do this. Click on position. I'm going to move the ball away from the background. It's like, I don't even know how to put my hand so it looks like that. I'm going to move the ball away from the background. So the ball is going to get closer towards the camera, which isn't there yet. Now that's going to throw things off in the final view. Let's blow out these keyframes here. The ball should probably look a lot bigger now because it just got closer to the camera. Let's see. Not bad. Maybe a little bit bigger, but not. You can see that it drifts off to the side now. Like it's not lined up as much anymore. And that's because it's come further out. So if we set up a camera in that squash and stretch, and in order to really do this right, let's even move it out a little bit further. So it's quite a bit a ways-ish. Let's add a new asset and we'll do a camera. So layer, new camera. It's going to ask you what kind of camera you want. If you're savvy with glass, which is a real fancy word for lenses, you can plug in whatever kind of camera you want. If you don't know what you're doing, I would just stay with the default camera. So here's your camera now, and you can zoom out a little bit. So there's your camera. The camera can animate. So now this is set up to camera 1. So this is what camera 1 sees. So let's move the camera now. So we're just going to animate, I believe that would be the y-axis. Could be wrong. Let's go back to custom view 1. Click on our camera. Let's take a look at the camera qualities here. We've got some options and we got transform. Position, Z rotation, Y rotation, X rotation. So now that we've entered the 3rd dimension, there's going to be 3 values to animate. Position, orientation, point of interest. That's like your zoom, your focal length. I'm just going to do the position. So we'll start here. And then as the camera or as the ball bounces, we'll zoom in some. So which one is it? It's blue. So we'll push in. So which one is that? That is Z, actually. All right, let's see what that looks like. Go back to camera 1. Give it a shot. That's how you would that's how you would animate a camera. But you can see that just a simple animation like that, I really have to take into account a lot of new factors, like where the ball is, where the ball is going to be, where the camera is going to be. It's creating a lot of variables that I don't know if a project like this would facilitate. We can keep going over it though. I mean, we'll have time. The next chat probably has time tonight. So if you have something specific that you want to see, where you can give me an idea of like why you would need a camera, we can talk about it and I can give you some ideas on like the best way to set it up. But for right now, I think I would do it kind of the phony way. and I would just pre-comp it and I would zoom into the composition.
Yeah, because the reason I brought it up, like for my project, I was planning to do like a rocket launch.
Mm-hmm.
So originally what I was planning to do was create like a long like vertical composition
Mm-hmm.
and have like the camera like fixed with the rocket like as it goes up.
Okay. Yeah, okay. I think you could still do that. So you could create a composition, let's say that it's, oh, hold on for a second. Actually, let's talk about that after break. I've got some ideas. I don't think you need a camera. I think there's a way that you could do it where you wouldn't need a super long composition, where you're just basically tricking it so it looks like it's long and it's not.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, guys, it's 7:51. Let's take a 10-minute break. 8:01, we'll be back in here. I do want to do over animate vines growing. That way I can show you how to prep a file in Illustrator. Talk a little bit about that on Thursday. Let's finish that topic up. We'll bring an Illustrator file in. I'll talk about anchor points, over animating scale, and then we'll end with that as like a case study. That'd be a good place to kind of end for the night. All right, so let me pause this. All right, guys, 8:02. Meet you back here. Get back on the clock here. Share my screen. Okay, we're done with this. You know what? It's not hurting anything. I guess I can just leave it open. The question is my Illustrator file the same size? I think it actually is. So, real quick, let me open Illustrator. The file that we're going to be using is called overanimate, pretty aptly named. Overanimate, open. So here's the big thing. I mentioned this last class, and it's worth repeating. Make sure that your assets are physically on different layers, not different paths, because After Effects will interpret paths as one single layer. So all of these things could be on one layer as separate paths, and you'd be able to manipulate them, change their colors, add strokes, all that stuff. But After Effects is going to smoosh it all together like it was footage. So if it's important that they be separate, make sure that you create new layers and move those things to those layers. And anytime that you have more than 2 layers, it's a good idea to name these things. I can give you some examples why in subsequent chats. Also, it needs to be RGB, has to be RGB, otherwise it won't even come in. So let me go to my artboard tool. Uh, 1920 by 1080. Yeah, I mean, it's close enough. It got shrunk down. Oh, I know what it is. The artboard is 1920, but the graphic is a little bit smaller. Okay, cool beans. Close out Illustrator. All right. So I'm working in the same project right now. I'm just going to pull in a new comp. So file, import, file, over animate, composition, retain layer size. This one is going to be mega important that it's retain layer size because I'm going to animate a vine and a leaf. If that vine and that leaf takes up the same surface, the 1920 by 1080 as the document, it's really going to throw things off. So those things need to be the size of the graphic. Import. There they are. So I got a few more books in my library now. So what do I got? I've got a composition called Final, and here it is. It's a basketball that gets zoomed in. I've got a composition called Squash and Stretch, which is that original one. I've also got one called Over Animate, which is this. So this is the one that I'm going to be working with. So here's what I would like to have happen. I would like 2 vines to grow. I've got one big one that's going to grow first. Off of that one, a small one's going to grow out of that. And then a leaf is going to grow off of the small one and then the word Olive Garden is going to appear. Let's talk a little bit about how to change the duration of a clip, because right now this thing is set to probably 5 seconds. Let's double check that. Yeah, it's set to 5 seconds. Now, is that a good time signature? I don't know, maybe. I'd let the client dictate that. Usually broadcast is in 30-second increments. Actually, it's like 27-second increments. It's a duration of a normal commercial. And they give you like 3 seconds of buffer. That's a segue. We call them bumper in and bumper out. So they can, if you've ever been to a broadcast studio, it's pretty complicated. I don't want to say it's like air traffic control, but it's a little bit like that. Just no lives are on the line. But they're constantly like shifting things around. So they give themselves just like a little bit of like buffer. Anyways, a title sequence like this would appear at the beginning and or at the end, usually at the end of a commercial, and they have their own specific time signatures. 5 seconds might be a little bit too long. So how do we shrink this down a little bit? It's really simple. So if you ever need to add more time or subtract time from a clip, you're going to go to comp settings, and it's comes up so often that they've given it the hotkey of Control or Command K as in kilo. Select this, and then you can plug in whatever time signature you want. So I'm going to shave a second off. I'm going to bring it down to 4 seconds. Choose OK. Now, if I realize that 4 is not long enough, I'll hit Control K again, add that extra second or 2 seconds on, and I'll keep animating. All right, so I'm going to start at the very beginning here. The background is just the color, so I'm going to lock that down. Nothing's ever going to happen to that, so I don't want to move it. I don't want to delete it. I don't want anything to happen to it. The type, that's going to fade on. So I'm going to twirl that down. Click the opacity, change the opacity to 0. And at some point, that's going to fade on, probably between 3 and 4 seconds, give or take. Vine big. I'm going to turn off vine small and turn off leaf. So those are invisible. I'm just going to work with vine big. I want it to scale. Here's the problem with the scale, though. I'll teach you guys a couple more hotkeys. I don't need to animate the position, the opacity, the rotation. I just need to animate the scale. So I could twirl this down and twirl down transform and go to scale here. But if I know it's only just going to be the scale, instead of going through all of that, with the layer selected, if it's just scale, if you hit S, that'll just reveal the scale property. P for position, S for scale, R for rotation, and I believe it's T for opacity. I don't know what anchor point is. I assume A, but I don't know. I don't animate it very often. Okay, so scale. Here's a problem with scale. Click on a scale keyframe. This is what's called backwards animating. Backwards animating is if I know I want it to end like this, I'll just move that keyframe out to say 1 second. That's where it ends. Where it begins will be 0. I'll bring this down to 0. The problem is, let's do a quick work area bar. I'll set the city marker to about 1 second, 2 frames and hit N. Do a RAM preview. It grows like that. That's not what I want to see. I want to see it grow from the ground up like this. Now, really the best way to do this would be with a mask, but I'm just going to do like a real down and dirty. Needless to say, it doesn't grow from the center out. That looks weird. Why is it doing that? It's because of the anchor point, or what we call the registration point. Same thing. It's this little, almost look like a little sniper scope, this reticle pattern here in the middle. That anchor point dictates where everything happens. So if I do rotation, so rotation, it's going to rotate from that point. I want it to start from the bottom. So what I need to do is I need to move the anchor point. Next class, we're going to be doing pin and joint animation. And when we do pin and joint, we have to move the anchor point around the lot. So this tool is going to get very important. So let me jump back to the beginning here. Let me take my scale and just blow these things out. Bring that scale back to 100 so I can see what I'm about to do. All right. So now let's set the anchor point to say, all right, start from down here and then grow to 100%. It's really simple to do. The tool that you're going to use is what's called the pan behind tool. It's the Y key. I wish they would have named it something that made a little bit more sense, like move anchor point tool, but this is what they called it. They called it the pan behind tool. So if you click this, you are free to click, hold, and drag and move the anchor point. So I'm going to set the anchor point just below the stage. And then I will set a scale keyframe, move that keyframe out to about 1 second, and I'll pull the scale down to 0 here. Now if I do a RAM preview, it grows from the bottom out. Not the most organic growth to be sure, but at least it looks a little bit more believable. So this grows and grows and grows. Now it's time for the small vine to grow out. So we'll zoom in. Same thing here. If I click scale, scale this, it's going to scale from the center out. Well, we already know what this needs to do. So get the pan behind tool, put that anchor point right kind of into the big vine here. And here I will set the scale to 0, click on a keyframe, plug it to 0, come out a few frames, go to 100. So as the big one grows, snaps into place, the small one should kind of come off of it. All right, so it's working pretty well. Now let's over animate. Here's where the over animation will begin. The leaf. So this thing is completely grown. Now it's time for the leaf. To be fair, I should really over animate the other 2 vines, but because they're not doing much, I'm not going to. The leaf will be the over animation, and that's the topic of this particular demo. The leaf has the same problem that the vines do. If it grows, it's going to grow from the center out. So it's Control plus. Still got the pan behind tool, so I'll move that anchor point right to its little stem right there. And let's go to S for scale. Click on an anchor point, pull it down to 0. Move ahead a few frames. Now, instead of going to 100, I'm going to go to maybe like, I'll really do it up. I think I'll go to like 110, maybe 115. So it's actually a little bit bigger than its original size. And then when it hits, it'll go from 0 to 115. And then within like a frame or 2, it's going to snap back down to its original size. So I'll just hit page down to advance just 2 frames. So page down 1, page down 2, maybe 3 frames. Well, I'll start with 2 frames. Go down to 100. All right, let's see just what that over animation looks like. It's going to happen pretty quick, so I might space it out a little bit more so we can see it. I'll slow that down a little bit. Have it grow a little bit longer and have it take a few more frames to snap into place. You see that where it kind of like grows and then snaps in? This is a trick that almost every animator employs, especially ones of motion graphics. Be observant, be looking for that in any type of animation. It's really subtle, but it's one of those things that add so much like nuance, and I keep saying the word physics. I'm trying to find a better word, like a natural motion to things. Because the reality is nothing just stops dead. You know, things slow down, things decay, they run out of energy. And when they do, you know, like when something expands, it will contract. So to apply those type of physics to a 2D object is a much more graceful and pleasing way of seeing things, even if you can't articulate it, even if someone doesn't know anything about animation. If you were to show them, here, we'll duplicate this. So Control D, go to scale. I'll get rid of the over animation. All right, both of these are going to do the exact same thing. Not even worry about those two. Take a look at the difference. One just sticks. It just and locks into place. It's very artificial. You know, nothing in nature looks like that. Where the other one, just by that simple keyframe of adding a little bit over, advancing a frame or two, and bringing it back down to its natural state where it's supposed to end, is a really like kind of graceful and elegant way of showing, in this case, scale. But you can do it for a lot of stuff like motion, not so much for opacity, but you could. But yeah, when it comes to scale, that's a really cool trick that I didn't know for a long time, but now that I know it, it's almost on everything. And now that you know it, be looking at, you know, commercials and little videos and stuff. You'll see it all the time. In fact, I call this commercial Olive Garden because there's an Olive Garden commercial that does this. So that's kind of what I was trying to replicate. All right, let me control minus so we can see our stage a little bit. Turn off the bad leaf, turn on everything else. All right, so that's working. And then we'll begin to fade on our type. So it's set at 0. Move that keyframe over. And then from here, we'll just come over a little bit, bring the opacity back up. Get the whole work area bar going. There it is. So, makes sense? It's not a huge concept, but one that I would highly recommend if you're in that situation. So lastly, we've got a rocket ship. So how do we, in the most time efficient way, show a rocket ship going up and going through, you know, maybe like Earth into the stratosphere, atmosphere, ultimately maybe into space, and maybe even beyond space? How do we do that in I guess the easiest way possible? One, we would need some assets. I don't really have anything right now, so I might just I'm trying to think of how I can build this really, really quick. Let's try this. We'll pop into Photoshop real quick. Make a new file. We've been doing 1920 by 1080. That seemed to work pretty well. Here's our stage. Our layers. I'm going to do a couple of gradients, I think. See how that works. Gotta be smart about this though. All right, I'm going to start with a new layer. And this new layer, I will do a solid color. So I'll just do the paint bucket, and we'll start with a blue sky. We'll do another layer. And this one, I'm going to do a gradient. And I'm going to go from that blue. Oh, buddy. Let's do a linear gradient. I'm going to go from that blue, which I think was this one, to a darker blue. Now, I'm kind of guessing here, so just bear with me. I'm going to do another gradient. I can should be able to flip these around. And I'll go from blue, and now I'm going to go to, I guess, just black. This is going to go by pretty quick. Now, I'm probably gonna have to apply these layer masks, so I'm just gonna write. I'll do rasterize layer, rasterize layer. Hopefully I got the colors right. I think I'm pretty close. If not, there's gonna be a seam, which we'll be able to tell pretty quick. No, I think that's right. Okay. Apply these layer masks because I don't know how After Effects will interpret those. And then I should be able to just go to straight black now. So I should be able to create a new layer, paint bucket, grab black. Okay, so I got my, we'll call this B1 for background 1, B2, B3, and B4. All right. Something else that's going to help out to add like depth cues would be stars. So I'll make a new layer. And I'm just going to sprinkle in a few little dots here. So I'll get my brush out. I've got that weird grunt brush right now. So let's just do a legacy brush, default, soft round. Good. Space this thing out a little bit. I'm not going to get too crazy with this. It's not much you. Change it up, add a few more little tiny dots. Here's where you gotta be a little bit smart about this, because I'm gonna create like a fake repeating look, and you don't want your stars in the same place every time. So I would probably want to create like 4 or 5 different star layers. But there's my stars, name it stars. And now I need a rocket ship. And on B1, I would probably want like a, grass and a launch pad and all that stuff. But, well, we're here, might as well do it. So I'll just make a shape. Grass. Okay, let's see if I can just find a rocket ship online real quick and just cut it out. Just need a little vector. So go to vector rocket. Perfect. This guy will work just fine. Let's see what'll happen. I think a select subject should be able to mask this, but it's white on white. I don't know how well it'll pick that up. That's pretty good. Mask it. Perfect. Apply the mask. Now here's one thing that would be cool is if the fire was on a different layer. So I should be able to get my wand, grab that, shift, shift. Ooh, it got a little bit too much. So let's Control Z that. Do continuous. There we go. Control X. It didn't quite get it all, so I'll just erase out this chunks that it didn't get. There's a few artifacts, but bear with me. I just obviously threw it together. So this is called ship. Control Shift V. This is called fire. All right, this thing is built. Let's save it. This would want to go into that folder, no doubt. We'll call it rocket. Close it out. All right, let's go to After Effects. Might as well just bring it into this comp. It's the same size. So File, Import, File, Composition, Retain Layer Size. Where did I save that thing? Was it the desktop? Composition, Retain Layer Size for sure. Okay, and let's animate this guy. Said I was muted. I don't know what that was about. Let me share my screen again. I hope I wasn't muted the whole time. Okay.
No, you've been good.
Okay, cool. I might have just cut me off for some reason. Anyways, all right, we don't need the fire on right now. We'll put our little rocket ship down at the bottom. Here's how I would do it. I'm not going to go through this entire thing. I just want to show you how you could transition the background to cheat this thing. But I would have the rocket start here. I would have a little launch pad next to it, and I would rotate. I would animate the rotation, go and then take off. And then when it takes off, so we will. We're really just doing this. So the ship will go P. I don't even know if honestly, I don't even know if the ship needs to move now that I'm thinking about it. So let's do this. I'll do a little bit of rotation here. Tilt a little bit this way, a little bit this way. And then I'll just copy these keyframes. Control C, page down a step or two, Control V, page down a step or two, Control V. So we'll see what that looks like. It should just kind of tilt side to side. Okay, so that looks pretty good. We're not going to get into expressions, but if you guys get into motion graphics, there's an expression that's just called jitter, and that's what it would do. Like you just write a little piece of code, frequency, magnitude, plug in two values, and then it'll just jitter on its own. That way you don't have to keep doing keyframes, but this works just fine. All right, so it's jitter, 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 and here's the cheat. So the ellipse and B1 are going to drop down. So we will animate jitter, 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 and now it's going to act like it's moving. So from here, P, drop in a keyframe, move this up a little bit, and I'm going to have them completely wipe off the page. Wrong way. Wrong way. Here we go. Right there. All right. So here, I need B2 on. So you can see it's the same color. B2 needs to go underneath it. So I don't think I need background. I think it's a dead layer. So delete that out. B2 needs to go underneath everything. Let's see if that works. All right. Problem is B2 starts off very dark, so that's what's making it look kind of phony right here. But what I can do is attach this to, let me think about it. So B2 position needs to be up on top. So what I'll do is I will move the position to the top. P for position. Wrong way. Right about here, give or take. Drop in a keyframe for a position. So it needs to start moving right here. So P, P, P. And let's see what would happen if I just tie this to B1. Okay, so the colors aren't quite right. You can see they're off by one shade. I messed that up. I should have copied the hex code, but pretend for a second that that's the same color. You can kind of get the drift that, we're moving. And then what I would do is I would just do the exact same thing here. move this down to wherever it needs to go. Down to here, give or take. We'll move B3 down to the bottom. So when this starts to go, right about here, take this, move the position of B3 down. Where is it? Oh, it's off. Right there. So those seams are together. That one actually matches up perfectly. Tie this to B2. And this one should end black. So I think I'll be okay after this. No, it's got to keep going too. So right here, animate the position. Come down a few more frames till it's off screen, and then you're completely black. And then at some point, your stars can start to show up. Maybe like right around in here. Turn the stars on. And these, I think I would just do opacity. So T for opacity. Come down a few frames. Bring them up. And then these should probably drift a little bit, but because stars are so far away, they don't move nearly as fast. They should just like slowly crawl. So we'll just P for position, set a keyframe, and then we'll just let these slowly drift. In fact, maybe what we'll do is push those back up, have them start a little bit higher. All right, let's see what it all looks like. See if the illusion works. And if we want to, maybe the rocket wants to be up a little bit higher. That's totally fine. So rocket is right here. So it starts off at the bottom, so maybe right around in here. P for position, set a keyframe, maybe towards the end. We have this kind of go up a little bit, maybe to the side a little bit. Maybe over here it comes to the side a little bit. You can kind of play around, maybe add a little bit of a rotation to it. Make it look like it's kind of like drifting through space. All right, let's see how it looks. Right around here, maybe we'll do set the fire. So turn it on. Wants to be like right here. It should be underneath the rocket, I think. We'll set the anchor point. Since we just learned how to do it, we'll set it to the bottom of the rocket. Now, what I'm doing here, I've done this a couple times and you probably didn't really understand what was going on. There's this little thing right here. It's called a pick whip. I always thought it was pronounced pig whip. I thought it was like a pigtail. It's like a little curly Q thing. So I always say pig whip. It's not right. It's pick whip. If you've ever used Dreamweaver, you might have pick whip things before. All it is it's tying it to something else. So if I tie the flames to the rocket, whatever the rocket does, scale, rotation, position, the flames will stay right with it. So that's what I did to the backgrounds. On Thursday, when we pin and joint, we'll be using the pick whip all day. So if you're like, I didn't get any of that, don't worry about it. It's coming. So I'm going to move this just a little bit. And I'm going to pick whip it so the fire stays to the ship. That. So the fire stays to the ship. So that's moving. So now what I want to do is when it takes off, I'll just scale it out. So S for scale, bring the scale down to 0. Tab, keyframe that. And then we'll bring it out to, maybe we'll over animate this too. go to 120. Back down to 100. All right, I think it's built. Let's give it a RAM preview and see the fruits of our labor. So no cameras, none of that stuff. It's all just one comp. Just kind of smart about the way that the background looks. It's almost like old Looney Tune movies, you know, like the Bugs Bunny's not running left to right. It's just the background's going by them really fast. So that would be one way to cheat the illusion of motion when in fact, the only thing that's moving is the background.
Yeah, that definitely helped a lot. I think I'm gonna try to do that. Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. I'm not discouraging you to use cameras. It's just once you open that can of worms, if you're not good with them, and I'll be the first to admit I'm not great with them. I'm okay, but if I can get by without using them, I will. The thing that the cameras will do that you can't really do here is it will give you depth of field. So let's say that I wanted the stars out of focus and I want the rocket in focus, but at some point I want to change the depth of field. Like I take the zoom on the camera or the aperture on the camera and crank it up. So suddenly the stars become sharper in focus and the rocket becomes blurry. The camera can do that really well. Outside of that, you know, unless you're doing like really intricate moves and crabs and pans and stuff, it's just flat, just cheat it. I guess the thing that you need to think about, and it's easier to think about than the camera, is how you prep your file. But outside of that, you should be pretty good to go. All right, let me take attendance. Ooh, let's see who's here.
Are you going to show the flower growing or not today?
I'm sorry, I wrote down over animate, and that was the flower growing. I can. Let me do attendance really quick. Let's see. Participants. Looks like everybody's here. Makes it easy. Okay. I don't have a file prep for that. Let me think for a second. Do you have an image ready that you think you might use for the flower or not? It's okay if the answer is not.
No, I don't. And it's okay if you don't have it. I honestly think I know how to do it. I did an animation before on Procreate and I kind of have an idea on how to make the movements
Mm-hmm.
happen. So I don't think I will struggle that much with it. But I just was wondering if you had something because you mentioned something about it
I
at the
did.
beginning.
You know,
So
I had flower written down and I folded that into the over animate. I thought
yeah,
that that's what that was. I thought I think it was the vine that threw me off. I'm like, oh, okay, so it's an over animate issue, but it's something
yeah.
different.
No,
Uh,
it's fine. It's fine then. If I
uh,
do have when I start putting everything together, if I do have any questions, I'll let you know. But I just wanted to see if you had something to
I
kind of
don't. Let me make a couple notes. We can talk a little bit more about this rocket, guys. If you let me know now if there's something you want to see on Thursday. We'll I'll keep adding to this rocket a little bit because there's a few more things that I would do to it. The big thing though is going to be pin and joint. That's the first thing I want to get to. So we'll pin and joint first. I'm going to put down flower. So here's the thing. I've animated a flower for a commercial. I might be able to find it. It might still be on Vimeo. The way that I did the flower was real similar to what I did with the vine. I drew, let me see if I can find it really quick. And if I can't, I'll just kind of explain it. I got a feeling I'm gonna delete out my downloads before this. I'm gonna lose everything. So shame on me, but we'll see. Um, that's the name of this. Free After Effects tutorial, animating shapes without keyframes. Oh, that's cool. Guys, if you want to do something like this, you absolutely can. And I know it looks super complicated. You'd be surprised how easy it is. So if you want to do just a motion graphic, just grab a tutorial and have fun. See if I can find my page. Sweet. Well, let's just here we go. Okay, so and I wouldn't even call it a great flower. Like I would do this a way different than I did 10 years ago. But what it is each one of these petals is its own layer, and the anchor point is positioned depending on how the flower like grows. So everything is locked together. It's all pick whipped together, and then everything grows, but all of the registration is tied together. So when it grows, everything is kind of growing from the center out. It created a lot more problems than I thought it would, and it didn't come out great. I mean, the client was happy, it was fine. But like I said, I would do this a lot different nowadays. I had to kind of like trick it at the end because it kind of started falling apart. So I just added a rotation to everything to hide some of the seams. So that's how I did it. So you could do it that way. You could just separate the petals into individual layers and then just have them all grow from a central anchor point. Or, I mean, honestly, at this point, I think what I would do, depending on what kind of flower you want, I might try to find a time-lapse video of it and I might rotoscope it.
Yeah, I was thinking about probably doing something like that, and I also thought about the possibility of instead of making a person looking at the flower, making maybe another flower, like a mom flower seeing the baby flower grow, or my pet, my cat looking at the flower. So it's easier for me to draw because I feel like if it's a person, I will probably try to put more detail into it than what I actually need.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
yeah.
and if you want more of like a motion graphic flower, I don't know if I'd be able to find the tutorial anymore. Aran Stern on Creative Cow did a really cool animated flower. So what he did, and I think he used Photoshop. I would use Illustrator. There's a really easy way in Illustrator to make a repeating shape. So you start with the problem with this is it's going to be like straight on. It's not going to have any perspective to it. So if you're okay with it being straight on, you just make a circle and then you make a shape. Let's say it's like a petal shape, right? And then you move the rotation anchor point to the center of the flower, and then you copy and paste once. It'll give you the ability to say how many degrees do you want. The smaller that number, the more iterations you'll get. The bigger the number, the farther they are apart. This might sound like, what is he talking about right now? Again, I can show you this on Thursday as well. It's a really simple way to build a flower is what it is. But you'll have separate petals. So let's say that your flower has 10 petals, 1, 2, 3, 4, or 12, like the hand on a clock, right? Get all 12. Then what you could do is you could animate each petal first one goes, and as the first one's at like 50%, then the second one starts to grow. And as the second one's at 50%, the next one starts. So it's like boom, 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 until they're all done. And then what he did is he twirled the entire thing around, and then he played around with like a hue saturation, like a color wheel. It's a really cool effect. It's kind of pretty to look at, but it's more of like a mandala than it is a flower. But as far as like a geometric animation goes, it's pretty cool. In fact, I'll set something like that up. It's not hard to do, and I can show you guys how to repeat a shape in Illustrator. So shockingly, not many people know how to do that, and it's pretty handy. So we'll do a flower using Illustrator with rotation.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. And if it works out, that's awesome. And if not, I'm sure you'll figure out a different way. Like I said, I think I personally would rotoscope it because
Yeah.
the thing about flowers is they don't just snap and grow. The petals are like locked in, and then they grow
Yeah.
out, and then they like blossom out. That's
Yeah.
something that you can't create that three-dimensional effect in After Effects. Like you have to literally draw that. So if you want it to look real, rotoscoping would be the way to go.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Anybody else want to say anything on Thursday? Okay, if not, guys, we are done for tonight. We got through quite a bit, so that's great. Have a good Tuesday. I'll see you back here on Thursday. There's nothing due. Just work on your animations.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. See ya.
Actually, I have one thing, but I'll wait.
That's fine. I mean, go ahead. What do you got?
Your favorite animations?
Yeah, just start working on your animation.
What about the exercise?
There are none.
Okay,
Okay.
bye.
See ya.
So, during my during project 3, I believe I developed a nerve injury because I pushed on my iPad too hard with my tablet
Okay.
because now it hurts to draw, and I'm worried about my final project if it's hurting to draw.
Mm,
I've
yeah.
done exercises, I've been doing ice. My mom is a nurse, so she's been helping me with that, but I haven't been able to work too much on the student-led project because I haven't been able to draw.
Well, there are contingencies for extenuating circumstances. So if you can get like some type of like a doctor's slip or notification explaining what it is, I think you would email that to your counselor, and then your counselor contacts me. And if you need more time, like into next semester, we can do that.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that was possible. I will
Yeah.
see if it gets better in time. I hope it does.
Sure. Yeah. But I mean, God forbid you were to get in a car accident or something, like, obviously you need more time, where like people had babies, they go out on maternity, like stuff happens. I get
Yeah.
it. You'll still be required to make up the work, but I think they'll just give you X amount of time into the future to get it done.
Okay. Okay. Awesome. Well, thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, I also had something. So,
Uh-huh.
tomorrow I'm gonna be visiting family abroad, so I'm not gonna be able to attend class on Thursday. I'm gonna be missing 3 classes,
Okay.
the 30th, the 4th, and the 6th. But I should be back on the 11th, I believe.
Okay.
But I'm gonna watch the class recordings and then still make sure I turn everything in on time. And then if I need your feedback on anything, I'm probably gonna email you, just letting you know.
Sounds good. Where are you going?
I'm going to Italy.
Nice, man. Where are you going?
My sister owns a house in Argenio.
Where's that?
It's kind of like an hour from Milan.
An hour south?
I think like I'm not sure. An
Okay.
hour like train ride from Milan. Yeah.
That's great. That's awesome. She owns a place out there, huh?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, she has money. So
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I spent 2 weeks in Italy a long time ago, and it was a great trip.
yeah, but yeah, I just wanted to let you know that I'm not going to
Hmm.
be attending the next few classes.
That sounds good.
Yeah, but I still plan on getting the project in on time.
All right, sounds good, man.
All right. Thank you. Just letting you know.
Hmm.
Have a good night.
Yep, see ya.
Hello. I have a question about project submission,
Okay.
project 3.
Yeah.
So, I sent you a message with project 3 and exercise 27. Did you see that?
I don't know. How come you didn't submit them to the Google Drive?
Oh, because I also sent you a link to Google Drive.
Okay. From now on, make sure that you submit them to the Google Drive because that's where I grade out of. But I'll double check that tomorrow.
Okay, okay. Could you show me or say where's Google Drive's link? Because I can't see it.
Yeah, it's on the project.
Oh, okay, one sec. Let me check it.
So if we go to the project, it's so that was project 3. Book covers. There's the Google Drive right there.
Yeah, it's closed for me because it's all the past
Mhm.
two.
So make sure that for future projects, always look for that Google Drive.
Okay,
Okay.
okay. So thank you.
No problem.